Alright you guys, 68 Outdoors here. Today we're going to talk about boots and shoes for hiking. As far as all your equipment goes, it is possibly the most important thing you have and use. It can ruin a trip, it can make a trip a lot more enjoyable. It's extremely important, and it's important to have the right type of boot for the right type of situation you're doing. So we're just going to kind of go through the general types of boots and shoes and whatnot, and yeah, we'll just start at the beginning here. This is a Loa shoe. It is a shoe, and it is extremely breathable. There is no waterproofing whatsoever. This is great in the summer. This is also if you're carrying little to no weight. Not having any kind of ankle support or anything makes it just about useless for really carrying any amount of weight. But you can get around on this just fine. And in the summertime, it's great. It really makes a big difference when you've got a lot of, where you're a lot of airflow in your shoes and whatnot. It'll keep blisters down and all that stuff as far as your shoes and boots being dry. But in the summertime, this is really an enjoyable type of thing to have on. And as long as you have good traction, and depending on, sorry, this is kind of dirty. Depending on where you're at and what you're doing, this is a good deal. There is a little bit higher step of this where you have more of a boot that has a little bit of support and whatnot. There is kind of something in between these, but I don't know. I believe in a decent amount of support. When I go from this to a boot that I'm actually going to carry some weight, I'm going to want something that has a nice high amount of ankle support and still breathes pretty good. This is a Gore-Tex lined boot with XCR, which supposedly XCR breathes better. I'll find out. I just recently got these for my spring summer boots. It's a lightweight boot. I think these weigh about 1.5 pounds. Couture type fabric, breathes really well, yet still has good support and a good front toe rind. This is where you'll do the most damage and put the most wear on a boot. This boot does not have metal type grommets like this. It is somewhat of a concern of mine. I'll let you know how these work out, but it does cut the weight quite substantially and allows it so that a lighter boot allows you to go further. As far as just a general type of boot, if you backpack a few times a year or hike a little bit, a boot like this is probably your best bet. A mid-weight boot that breathes decently. You could still carry a 35-40 pound pack sufficiently and have plenty of comfort throughout the year range. A heavy sock under this boot is going to do you well. In cold temperatures, you still have a Gore-Tex liner. You don't have to worry about something leaking in or anything like that. And your average person can make it through almost all their stuff with a boot like this, a nice middle of the road boot. I live in New England, and most of the year I use a heavier boot. All leather. It is Gore-Tex lined. There's a decent amount of technology in a boot like this. Still have good ankle support and good resistance to wear. Durability in all backpacking items is its ability to wear against abrasion. A heavier leather boot like this is a good medium. This is a good fall into winter boot, and I've worn this year round. It seems to get hotter every year, but in the summertime this is a bit much, but I have done it. You just need to change your socks more often throughout the day, and it's not the most comfortable thing, but it's doable. But if you mostly hike in the fall and the winter, this is a good boot to have. I'm not really getting into names and things. I'll do reviews on these boots. But this type of boot, a full leather, medium weight boot, will hold up well. This boot, if you look at it, looks like it's in this is a 2-year-old boot. I've worn these a lot. I've put a lot of mileage, tape all over the bottom. I put a lot of mileage on these boots, and they've held up very well. They still wear very well, and it's fall winter boot. Very good. All right, now this is the only boot that I have that is not a Gore-Tex boot. but I do treat it with mink oil and whatnot. As you can see, this is a lot of abrasion on this boot. I wear this for winter hiking and ice climbing. I just ice climbed in these this past year. They worked out really well. But this is a full leather boot. It is not technically a waterproof boot, but it's not meant to be. This is a winter boot. Its conditions are in the snow or the ice, where water infiltration is not so much of a big deal. You're not going to be in a snowstorm. You might be in heavy snow, but typically when you're heavy snow, the heat coming off your foot is going to push moisture out. Treating it with mink oil and whatnot will keep it. I've never had any problems, and I have been in the rain in these boots. I like these boots a lot. This is a substantially heavy boot, but I feel very comfortable carrying 50 pounds in this. I'm a light guy, so 50 pounds is a pretty good loadout for me. I feel very comfortable in this. They're burly. They go through just about anything I've ever thrown at them. Again, as you'll notice, almost everything I have has a solid toe rind on it. It's just the highest point of failure I've ever seen in most boots. But yeah, this is a full heavy leather boot. Winter boot. It's worked out real well, and you'll see a lot of this. This is probably your most traditional type of backpacking boot. And then I'll get into, this is a non-insulated boot also, but it is a double leather. It will hold its temperature pretty well. As you get into late winter and long excursions and mountaineering, you're going to get into something like this. Actually, for its size and whatnot, the weight on this is not horrible. This isn't a super heavy boot, but it is definitely a full utility boot. It is thick leather, huge amount of toe rind, as you can see, heavy build and all the construction of it. This is a crampon compatible boot, as is this actually, but this is an insulated boot, waterproof, and I can get comfortable down to temperatures of I can get down to 0 and a little bit below. Much below that, if you're not moving, you're going to need a plastic boot. But I've been very comfortable standing around for hours in this boot below, below 0, with a decent sock and a liner, and these are aligned. Now, like I said before, something like this for your average person is probably the way to go as far as an all-around boot, but it depends on how often you go, when you go, and whatnot. The most important thing to any kind of boot is the type of fit. Now, if you notice and know what any of these are, these are almost all Scarpas, but they're more of an Italian brand of boot. It's because of the type of foot that I have. Personally, I could care less what brand it is as long as the quality's good, but the most important thing is the fit. I have a narrow, medium to low volume foot, and typically the European brands fit me a lot better. But that's beside the point. When you go and try on a boot, you need to have a resourceful person if you don't know yourself. If you go into a gear shop and you don't feel comfortable with the person, go somewhere else. Find somebody else. It is the most important thing. The fit of a boot is imperative. You want a snug boot, but you want to be able to wiggle your toes. When you go out to find a boot, it's imperative that you find a good retailer and somebody that's a competent person. You can tell who's competent. But anyways, there you go. There's a good overview of boots and what not sizes or types of boots really. But so there you go, types of boots. And we'll get into some reviews of these boots, but there you go. You kind of have a broad look of what they are. If anybody has any questions, let me know. Have a good day. Get outdoors. Make your own food.